since this was my first time really meeting you guys, how about you introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'll start. I'm Jewel, and I actually grew up in the Philippines. I moved to New York about, 13 years now. Moved to school from the Philippines. I was in college there, and then I just moved to school here. I was gonna originally become a nurse, as most Filipinos are, but kind of diverted into psychology. I did industrial organizational psychology.
Whoa, that's interesting.
It's more on like the business side of psychology, not on like the clinical.
Yeah.
Although it kind of like intertwined. So did that, and then I needed a part-time job right after college, and I ended up in coffee. And I kind of did the entire thing. I became like a trainer, but then I actually wanted to do something with like my degree. So I asked them, I was like, is there anything I can do with like my degree here? Right. So they had offered to work, and I was working in HR for a bit, and then realized I didn't want to be working in an office setting.
Yeah.
So I left that briefly, and then I actually started cooking.
Wow, you're like all over the place.
Oh yeah, I was doing everything. Did not have any culinary degree or anything. I just enjoyed cooking.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had clients. I would go cook for people.
That's cool.
And then it was really fun. And then pandemic happened. We met and had to do some like catering delivery thing, like me cooking for people. It was kind of fun, actually. And then this is like how kind of Kape Catorce or KC14 started. But I'll let Jess kind of tell you a little bit about herself as well before the coffee.
Yeah, go ahead.
My brain is in Spanglish right now.
So it's okay. You can take your time.
Bear with me. Well, I'm Jessica. I'm actually a halfie. My dad is from here, from the States, and my mom is Colombian. But I was born, raised, everything in Colombia, as you can see. So Spanish is my first language. I guess that's one of the main reasons I'm also in coffee, because I grew up in Colombia. And then as growing up in Colombia, I went for art school and art history, but I focused on research. And my whole research in college was feminism and feminism in rural areas, how women producers are impacted by this massive waves of feminism in South America. My grandmother was a producer, so I was doing that research with the purpose of making a paper, of showing some evidence how actually women in the rural areas are heavily impacted by our culture, our economical structure. But after that, I started teaching in the same university. I moved to the States to do my master's in museum studies, again, research. And I started working in museums. And I was hoping that I could do something with those narratives and feminism in museum. Didn't happen. So after 9 years of trying, I was like, this is not it. This is not the place. I need to reinvent myself. I need to go back to a place where I can feel like I'm happy with what I'm doing. Right. So basically I transform the skills that I get from museums and research and all the skill set, and we opened KC14. So I when we met, I was telling her, like, I wanna still work with my country. Like, I'm very, very Colombian. So I still want to work with my country. I am still very interested in working with, well, all these people in the rural areas. I want to continue research, but I want to move the research a little bit forward. I just don't want it to stay on paper. and she has such a massive background in coffee. So we start talking about coffee and about producers, about how actually it's life changing when you give opportunity to a producer beyond the numbers, beyond the data shows, beyond that. Like coming from a Colombian family, my grandmother was from Boyacá. It's not the capital. It's close, but it's not the capital. And she grew up and she like her produce and everything was in Chiquinquirá, in a place in a rural area. And I know the massive impact that it has when you empower the producers, when you empower these people to make change, because it actually affects the whole family, and the family in towns, in rural areas, affect the whole community. So rural areas are way more connected than we will ever be in a city. And so we wanted to start with that when we started, Kape Catorce, a little bit of translating her background, my background, and doing something that actually was meaningful, and stop fighting with museums.
It must have been a really long fight. I can imagine you were probably really fed up and frustrated, but you're doing great with what you're wanting to accomplish now. It
Thank you
seems
so much.
Yeah, I love the two diverse stories coming together and making something beautiful out of it. It's very original. It seems like it's really innovative for what you guys are trying to do. I kind of peeped the website and did a little bit of digging, and I saw that two of the coffees you sourced through Ruth, who is from Artisan Coffee, and she was on the show. So it was really interesting how that episode just came out.
Ruth.
Yeah, she's
we love
amazing.
working with her. Yeah. We aspire to be just as great as she is.
Yes.
That's literally the same thing I tell her too. So you guys both came from very different backgrounds before getting into coffee, art history and then industrial psychology. I guess, like, when did it click for you to want to really pursue coffee full time? I mean, I know Jess was the person who had a lot of background family-wise, but I was really curious.
Yeah, for me at least, I started coffee right after college. So it's like I dove into the coffee world immediately and got sucked in, and still am like here. So when we met, I already have about like a decade experience in coffee.
Oh, wow.
And I knew I wanted to do something with it. I always wanted to start something, open something. And it was a no-brainer when we talked and decided as to like what we wanted. When we met, we knew we want something to do with coffee. At least I wanted that, and she did too. And I was like, well, like there's nothing, like it's something in common that we want to do. And like with her research background and like with my coffee background, it was like a no-brainer for us.
So it's very yin and yang.
Exactly. It was more like, it sounds cheesy and everything, but it's more like those honest decisions that at one point you have to make for yourself. I feel like coffee was a decision. It sometimes coffee happens to be like in the case of producers, second generation, it's like, but for us it was more like a decision, a conscious act of being like, do we want to follow that path, even though in my case, like saying goodbye to my suit and the makeup every day and the high heels to roast coffee was a big leap of faith. It was more like, it is my passion, but I'm scared. Yeah. So I guess it was for both of us very mindful decision.
Right. Yeah. I think in consideration, this is something that we both wanted to live by. It's like really having like our values instilled within the company that we started.
Right.
Something that we're proud of no matter what.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm like, whoo. I'm just processing. So I ask everybody on the podcast as to what was the main reason you guys wanted to be on the show, because obviously this is our first time interacting. So I was really curious as to like what part of did you want to be on the show for?
Well,
I would say that in my case, for me, it was mostly like podcasts also like bring sometimes I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but tough conversations sometimes to the table. I do believe that when women have a space to speak, they should always go for it. Since it's very new that we have a space that we can actually talk and more like in a ¿cómo se dice area? There you go. That is mostly men. Like it's been for generations that men been like I wouldn't say the head, but they've been taking over the coffee industry, and I feel like it's powerful when women can actually talk about these things,
coming together and using each other's platform, honestly, to empower each other. Does that also make connections and people hearing this? Like most women that we've randomly got in touch with, even through Instagram, they feel empowered just because they hear our story or see our story. And then they ask for advice, and like them feeling empowered and then them inspiring other people as well. That's such like a great feeling for us women.
Yeah. I find it amazing seeing how many different walks of life enter the coffee industry and how they all got there, and the story as to why they're still in the industry, because obviously there are struggles like you were talking about, it being very male predominant. And I was gonna ask, have you guys ever run into having issues within the industry with men in any aspect? Look at her face. She's like, how much time?
No, there are different struggles. There, from the small ones that are actually very, I would say, educational, and I would say, I'm not gonna assume that it comes from a bad place. I do think that it comes sometimes from curiosity, but sometimes we get people asking us, like customers or people interacting on social media, why, like, what's the point of women coffee? Like, why you highlight that you buy from women produce? It makes no sense. And it's just like, well, this is why. And having those conversations, like, this is why it's important. And not only like for you to know, but it is important for us, because at the end,
this is our mission that we decided to take on.
Right.
So from those interactions, that I think that actually they always end up with something good, even if it's just like this kind of questions that other people can read. If they were wondering the same, now they can read. It's already there. Like those responses. Up to many other big challenges, like financial wise. Sometimes it is, well, it's not a secret. It's hard to get certain loans, certain things when I would say when you're a woman. I feel like financially or economic wise, there is an impact of being a woman in business. And it starts for small things, like it can be things as loans, but sometimes people question like when you're gonna find a place to rent, or like they wanna know who's behind the project. Like you need to extra proof why you're doing this.
Right. Yeah. And taking detail. So like what she said. But I have a question though.
Yeah, go ahead.
When did you start this podcast, and what made you start this podcast? Sorry, I'm like the reverse.
No, I love when people ask me questions, so it doesn't just feel like an interrogation. Because sometimes I do feel bad, just like digging.
Right.
So I started this podcast as an idea back in last year of the summertime, and then through a lot of deliberation in my head whether or not to actually produce it. And then I had an interaction with an importer from Colombia, actually, where it felt very isolating and uncomfortable because it was like I wasn't really addressed a lot of the time because it was a male interaction. I was kind of just in the room like a fly. And then I kind of came to this realization that there needed to be some certain level of awareness because I went to the Roasters Retreat last year and met a lot of amazing, empowering women. And I kind of just have only been in the industry for over a year and a half. So I've been a barista for 5-6 years. And then I started doing roasting last year. And that has migrated into a larger role at this point.
Okay.
And I was just asking these questions about, is this just like how it's always been? This like cockiness, this like level of arrogance. And I'm not trying to like talk down because obviously it exists in all areas of careers, but I just like noticed it predominantly more in that space. And I just didn't like the fact that all the women were very much in unison, realizing this has just been a reoccurring issue. And I was just like, so we're not going to talk about it? And that's when I was like, okay, so are we going to have the conversation? I feel like women should sit down with each other. Women, people of color, queer folk should sit down and like talk openly and candidly about these things, about what experiences they've had where they haven't felt comfortable or felt safe or felt like they've been seen and their purposes being validated for why they're choosing to be in the industry. And I kind of, it's okay. You're fine. And yeah, I just kind of pitched the idea to my now producer, and he was on board, and we were just kind of like taking this project and trying to make it a thing. And this is also a great relationship building experience for me as well. I get to meet so many different people, and I get to see how much coffee and the coffee industry means to people. And it's not just like me who sees a lot of passion and growth and opportunity within the industry. It's like a bunch of other great empowering women too.
That's awesome.
I definitely agree. We were just talking about this recently, how this conversation needs to be more out there. Mm-hmm. And I know it's uncomfortable sometimes talking about those experiences, but the more we talk about it, the more we all get to desensitize, choosing not to talk about it. I think also be more aware too, everyone.
Yeah, but for example, when we talk about this, like having this uncomfortable conversation, sometimes I get to think, because when I was doing my research in Colombia, this is uncomfortable for who?
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. I was just going to bring this up too. Just like it's a certain level of oppression women have always felt the need to conform to, no matter what society and cultural values, that we always will feel this certain level of like uncomfortability from having very candid conversations because it's not encouraged, I think, a lot of the time in cultural values.
Yeah, because that was kind of like the question that when this recurring question, like why do you want to work with women produce, or why does your label have to mention that it's women produce, like for what? And I start wondering, like, I explain them. I explain why, starting by, well, like, honestly, with all due respect, now it's our company, it's our rules. Like, that's one of the things that I like about having a company. Because I play the game by somebody else's rules for many years. And it's just like, well, no, this time it's our company, it's our rules. And this is our vision. This is actually our values. And I wonder, why aren't they feeling uncomfortable questioning somebody else's values or highlighting something that for us actually makes us very proud?
That's true.
So it's just like, why does it make some people uncomfortable, like having these conversations? Because on it, like, with all, the respect, but sometimes I get very tired of being the one that is feeling uncomfortable, because like I don't want to be feeling uncomfortable about this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, there's a certain level of just exhaustion to having to explain yourself and justify your actions when a lot of other people don't have to.
Yeah, and they can openly just say whatever they want without having to
I was going to say,
filter so many things in their head before they open their mouths.
But I feel like it's part of it. It also helps to see the other side. I feel
For
like
sure.
sometimes, especially in coffee, one amazing thing that I kind of like I've been working on, but coffee have like helped me with is to listen, to actually hear and understand the whole situation. Because sometimes when you work with producers, you just need to listen what they have to say. Like not listen to answer, not listen to have a response. No, just listen. And I feel like it's very helpful for us owning a company because we get to actually hear out our customers, people that have questions about those values. So I feel like if we are not, in our case, not willing to engage like on the same kind of like attitude or fight, but just listen, it gives us a little bit more insight on how to approach it and to actually see the whole spectrum of the people that are involved in coffee.
Yeah, I think that kind of transcends even outside of the community. I think in general, people should apply that because half the time, I know from personal experience, if I'm just trying to vent, I don't need a solution all the time. I can figure that out on my own, but half the time it's like I have things that I want to say and I just want someone to just kind of sit and be engaged and listen and care about what's being said.
Yep,
Definitely.
Agree.
So we're all aware of a lot of the issues with trying to vocalize and put forth a lot of our issues with the industry. How do you feel we should kind of connect them all together and kind of bring awareness and change to a lot of the imbalance that happens? I know that was a loaded question.
Where do we start?
Go ahead. You guys got full reign.
Very, I would say I have a very kind of hippie answer to it. It's very, that it's outside even the coffee world. I do think that it starts with each person. I like whenever like this kind of conversation happen, whatever, these issues arrive, I do think that people should have a sit down, quiet time. Because part of our experience with coffee is having that mindful experience of coffee. Like just sit down, smell your coffee, appreciate your coffee. Mindful with everyday practice. Be mindful about your words because, of course, it has, words are so powerful.
Yeah.
Actions follow your words, our words,
Thoughts.
everything. Yeah. So it could just start with an act of starting with a mindful act every day. I would feel like the industry would be, and in general, so much better, less
Ego driven.
Yes, more like start with you. Start with you and that cup of coffee, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, imagine yourself being so present and just mindful. And so the things surrounding you outside does not seem to feel so big and problematic anymore. I know it's like easier said than done, but it does take a lot for each of us to be present and just mindful of our own selves. And then it makes it so much easier to relate and be compassionate and kind towards the others as well.
And also towards ourselves. I feel like being women who own a business, mental health is part of it. And the idea of what's considered successful, how you consider yourself successful, it also plays a part inside the industry. It's not like the industry has nothing to do with all of us, each individuals. No, I feel like if us as individuals work a little bit more on ourselves, and inside, whatever we're doing, that we're doing in a mindful way, it would be so different. But,
do you both feel that a lot of the coffee industry has forgotten a lot about the stories?
I just feel like there I don't know, it's lost in translation. So.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it definitely does not get talked, or it does not reach everyone at all. I feel like most of the time regarding coffee, from the producers themselves to the consumer side, I feel like all they know is the origin of coffee they're drinking. Does not necessarily know who the producers are, how long did the producers work on that, what other coffees those producers work on, like nothing. It's just the origin of the coffee, sometimes even not. It's just like, hey, do you have that, I don't know, like Colombia? I'm like, oh, it's not like Colombia. And Jess and I we make sure that we get to tell the stories of the producers in our bags, and whenever we do launch new coffees and offerings, like she does in-depth like research of all these coffees. Sometimes like whenever we get samples of coffees and amazing coffees, we then ask about the producers, and sometimes importers tell us, it's just like not provided.
Yeah, I've run into that so much.
But yeah. I feel that's what comes with it working in the industry. Is not only about finding the coffee, it's about partnering with the right people. And with the right people, it comes with finding your importers, the producers that you're working with. So many times it happens that, for example, in Colombia, there's still like certain mafias when it comes to coffee, and who is actually, being the, I don't know in English how is the name of this, but the coyote, who is the person in charge of picking up all this coffee and take it to, so it's just, it takes time to do the research, definitely. I feel like it's necessary. It's necessary to improve not only like the industry, but actually the like sustainable living in origin.
Right.
And so it's not just finding good coffee and an amazing producer. In our case, well, we work with importers. We don't do direct trade, since in terms of money, we cannot afford being our own self, like importer, exporter, and everything. Like, no, we cannot afford it at the moment.
But working with someone like Ruth,
it makes a difference.
It makes such a difference that knowing her practices and values, what she puts in, it makes us feel so much better as consumers of those coffees that we bring into our own consumers over here. Like we're pretty much like very confident as to, we feel good about this coffee, like buying this coffee from her.
Yeah.
Excited. And also there's the openness that we can ask, how much was the producer paid? What are the challenges that they're having right now? Like, for example, right now we're working with some producers also in the Philippines, and I cannot even start with the amount of challenges. I think it's more challenges than coffee in this moment. So the problem with that is more like, okay, what can we do like on our side to instead of just buying coffee just because we want coffee from the Philippines, but what can we do to actually make this a sustainable relationship, make it like a lot of people in the Philippines actually want to stop working with coffee to find something other cup or something else, because the challenges are massive. And we as we start having conversations, we realize, well, there are some challenges that you have that we can actually help with.
Yeah.
So let's see
So
how can this work.
Yeah.
it sounds a lot of like Ruth was talking about this on the episode too, the idea of economic development, like helping build and sustain a lot of the communities that they're already growing and helping them with education or finances or whatever it is. It sounds like you guys are kind of leaning into that interest with the Philippines.
No, for sure, because currently the government in the Philippines really is like not supporting any of like the coffee industry, and specialty coffee is like slowly growing.
Yeah.
It would be a shame that we can't get our hands into the Filipino coffee just because they can barely manage themselves over there.
Right.
So recently when we were talking to there's two amazing girls actually from Cebu, Philippines. We've been trying to like bring their coffees here. They were telling us that the producers, because of like the thunderstorm, a lot of beds got destroyed and drying coffee has been a problem.
Right.
So we asked it, hey, like, you know, we can support that, like we can build more drying beds for like their coffees, because those coffees basically went to waste and they don't produce that much coffee anymore to begin with. So like them having to throw out those coffee because it's just they can't sell those, it's such a shame.
It's a lot of hard work. That's really
Yeah, for sure. And that must have been so hard for the producers and farmers themselves, because you know it's like that's like where they get their money from, their living.
Yeah, and these challenges you can find it everywhere, and that's I feel like it's also a decision as a company if we want to actually get involved into that, or just be like, yeah, know what, I'm gonna find another importer and figure it out.
Yeah,
but I feel it wouldn't make sense if we chose to
ignore
it. If we chose not to get involved in that area, for me it would be a little bit like, okay, let's go back to an office, like to museums, and let's forget about this.
Like ignoring the problem, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like let me know when there's coffee.
I was gonna say we especially in America have the luxury of the choice to ignore too. I think that's something that gets abused a lot in any industry, not even just the coffee production industry.
Yeah, everywhere. And also we do have the choice to help as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Well, yeah, it is. It is seen as help, but honestly, it's
like
just
working with aid. Yeah,
it's a horizontal relationship that we want to build.
That's true.
It wouldn't make sense just to. If we see coffee as a transaction, it's pointless.
Exactly.
It's pointless. Nothing that comes from the Pacha, from Mother Earth, nothing that comes from the Pachamama should be seen as just a transaction, as a product, because it's something that it's a cycle. It grows. Somebody needs to be there. So it's just a respect also with the earth, with the Pacha. It cannot be something like I buy and goodbye, and hopefully you're good with the crop. No. For example, in Colombia, this year, it was terrible. Like 30% of the coffee went to waste. We have, instead of 4 to 3 months of rain, we have 7 months of rain. That's a massive, massive, massive problem for the country. And if we as a company say, you know what, your coffee just lost quality, or your coffee, you don't have enough coffee, so we don't want to do this transaction, it hurts the producer.
Yeah.
It's not a transaction. We know these people. Luz Marina would be heavily affected. And not only Luz Marina, her whole community, her town, everything. So it's just like, no, we stand by them, as we know that it is part of building a sustainable community. It's not just a convenient community. It's not like, oh, you got something, you have amazing coffee. You know, how many points do you have on that cup? Beautiful, I'll buy it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I talked to Camila Khalife about quality and green grading and how there's a lot of controversy of whether it really matters depending on what you're accomplishing with the coffee. And she brought up, you're shaking your head no. Like, she brought up a great point. She said to bring all of the bad graded coffee, all the defects, and put it in a cup of coffee and drink it. And imagine how origin countries are drinking those coffees every day of their life and they're fine. And I think that if people can kind of shape their value towards the relationship building and not just on the cup of grading, because then it's becoming you're stripping away a lot of the qualities that come from coffee. It's not natural anymore. Then it's controlled and it's no longer like, coffee can be good even with defects.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But that's the, I guess that's the pacha side of it. It's just like, I think it's a very I would say European and US concept of, ooh, this banana is a little bit like weird. It doesn't have the nice shape, so trash. And it's just like, como? Like for us in it's just like it's their gift from the pacha, so we consume them. You know, Colombia, as Colombians, we don't drink quality coffee inside the country. It's starting, it's slowly starting, but no, we don't. And yeah, we grew up with that coffee and we're still very okay. But instead of, of ignoring that inside the country we're drinking not quality coffee, it's more like also empowering the producers. They all can achieve like the best quality of their product, as long as the other people that are surrounding them are giving the tools. Depriving the producer from education, the knowledge, the tools, it's part of a problem. I do think that roasting, teaching producers how to roast is empowering them to make wiser decisions and better decisions with their coffee, empowering them to have the knowledge about how to treat certain plagues, about how to fertilize, how to use their own products is the best way. And you would see that in Origin, there's a lot of community that's actually share this ancestral knowledge. Like in La Sierra Nevada and Santa Marta, our older siblings, they're called Los Arhuacos, that they're
indigenous.
They're are one of our many indigenous cultures. And I would say that they do have the knowledge. They do have a lot of power, and I'm very grateful for women like Aurora Izquierdo, that herself as a indigenous woman, as Arhuaca, she's been sharing this knowledge with women in her community and outside her community. She's been empowering people. So why out there roasters and other companies are not like buying all her coffee? Because what she's doing is just, it's massive. But it also requires on the other side, the ones that are not in the country, to get interested in that. And also for the consumer to know that behind that cup, all this is happening. Over 3,000 years of ancestral knowledge on how to take care of the seeds. It's not a cup of coffee. You're drinking the knowledge of our community that it's been there since forever, even before the Spaniards got there and took everything from us. So they're drinking history. They're drinking a whole cosmovision in that cup of coffee.
It's very ritualistic. It's very ceremonial, and that's a beautiful thing to listen to.
For sure. Yeah.
That was great.
I know, right? She's like, I always tell Jess that whenever she explains things, it's like TED Talk.
Can I just say, I think that has to do with the power of language, but I think from just my very short experience with Colombian people, the way they talk has impact. Like, I've talked to many Colombian women, and they just know how to speak well. Even if it's not their native language, it's just a power to the way they say things, the way they enunciate, the way they have emphasis and impact with what they say. I'm just like captivated. I'm like, keep talking. I'm just like,
tell me more.
That's how I get her to marry me.
Exactly. She talked me into it.
you just sat there and you're like, yes, I will.
Yeah. Okay. She hasn't even asked the question yet. It's like, yes.
Whatever you need, whatever you want, I'm there. I find it interesting. Did you guys start the business together before you guys became
married?
Yeah.
We were already dating. We started it before we got married, though. And luckily enough, he looked at me and was like, what? It's funny how we naturally divided the company, like our to-do task in a way. I basically gravitated towards the things that I'm good at or I feel confident with, and she just did the same thing. And we didn't even really talk about like, you're gonna do that, I'm gonna do this.
Everything
we just
fell into place.
Exactly,
yes,
and everything
beautiful.
is done separately, and then we like come together, have a meeting. I was like, oh, you did that? I was like, yeah, because I wasn't going to do that anyway. So so it worked out. It's like we kind of supplement each other. Like my weaknesses are her strength, the other way around. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very nice.
True.
Yeah. It does help that we do share the same values. One thing I know, like a lot of our friends and family asked us, like, is it hard starting a business with your significant other? Right. We thought it was going to be difficult because we've heard some stories.
Yeah.
But honestly, like you really just have to be as honest and be
but vulnerable.
Vulnerable, but also like know how to like communicate, like everything. No, just listen and communicate.
Do you think it strengthened your marriage? It sounds like a lot of the time the values of what you guys both resonate, even outside of the relationship, if it reflects in your career as well. I feel like that would just kind of bring the bond a lot more solidified.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Both like personal and work, sometimes if we do have some misunderstanding, it boils down to our values. And then we just become grateful that we can tackle those things together and then resolve things together. And yeah, it definitely helps a lot.
We try the most to see everything as a learning opportunity. Sometimes, like we were talking at the beginning, sometimes there are other factors that make me a little bit triggered, make me question myself. But at the end, it's all a learning. I'm always like grateful even for those sometimes bad interactions, because I learn not only about the other side, but a lot about myself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It does bring out, because there's just going to be that if you're doing a business like, by yourself or other people that you don't know.
Yeah.
Because we're together, we kind of like keep each other in check. Like, hey, like, are you sure? Like,
yeah.
And we're more willing to also listen to each other.
Too.
Yeah.
So not just only being women in the industry, I'm kind of gravitating towards now the queer side of the industry. How have you guys had in terms of experiences being queer women of color, obviously? And you, whatever you feel comfortable with talking about.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm very comfortable. Still happens though, like sometimes that people always assume that we are just business partners. Like, oh, your partner? I was like, my wife. I was like, oh.
Or you should like just be like, my wife.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We tried that.
Yeah, it does happen. We are aware that it's kind of a risk, I wouldn't say a disadvantage. I would say it's a strength if we know how to use it. But well, it's not a secret that a lot of people are not very happy with gay people, and unless when they're married. And so far the experience haven't been bad because we also have set our boundaries. This is not negotiable. This is who we are.
Right.
It's part of our values, and it's something that we're very proud of. I'm very, very proud of me as a woman, us as a marriage.
Yeah.
And people of color. We're both like immigrants.
Yeah.
So, I feel like it does, because we tell people, or like we feel strongly about our values, about like what we do and who we are.
Yeah.
It does attract the people we also share the same values with.
Yeah. And we do put it everywhere as a disclaimer. It's on our website and everything. This is a business of a couple, of a Filipina and a Colombian. So the beginning, no, this is we're gay, we are married, and we are a Colombian Filipino couple. So this is what you get. But I do feel like, because we are so proud of that, I feel like it's on our side, or at least the people that are interested in our company also like respect that and see that in us. I wouldn't feel comfortable put it on the back, or just being like, Colombian Filipino. No, because it is what it is, and somehow we make it work despite I know that this wouldn't be able to happen, unfortunately, in Colombia or even in the Philippines.
It would be so much harder. It just so happened. I feel like this happened in the right time, the right place over here.
So why not?
But also, like, I do think our story as well inspire a lot of other queer people in coffee. These two girls that we're talking to at the moment in the Philippines, they're queer. They're together and they feel
that's beautiful.
Such an inspiration about like our story.
But they do also feel the pressure, the cultural pressure, the business pressure, because things add. It's not just like you're presenting yourself as a woman. You're a gay woman.
Yeah.
And then you start adding those factors.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can get very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any experiences or any stories or from other people that you've talked to about queer experiences in the business?
Challenges?
Challenges, yeah.
I definitely have my own personal experiences and challenges. And I will say I haven't met many queer folk in the production industry in comparison to a lot of the front of the house baristas. And I know it's all scattered, but a lot of the time there's always this level of like insecurity, and some of the people I have talked to haven't felt safe in the circumstance. And I know a few people who have lost jobs because of their identity. So, I've definitely seen the effects of being open and being queer, and the effect it has on such a conservative culture that is the production industry. That's just like how it's always been built, because of a lot of the cultures being very conservative and patriarchal. It's such a liberal and open concept that some people just can't accept.
Right.
And I think another thing that influences that also is your environment. I think a lot of the time, I can say that I'm from the Midwest, and I can only recall on the experiences I've had with Midwest queer people as well, that it's not as enlightened and as accepted and opened as it could be like on the West or the East Coast. So it's maybe a little bit harsher here. it's kind of growing, but overall I feel like a lot of the time it's kind of like okay boomer talk with a lot of the people here, and it's really sad. So it's nice hearing positive experiences, but the reality is they both do exist on both sides of that line.
Sure. Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, totally. I feel like there are those, it's like a good thing here that was like we're here and we have like this, and it's like openly accepted, but also on the other side, like there are also those challenges that we face that even though it's widely accepted here.
I think I've had more struggle with my identity as a person of color than my queerness, to be quite frank.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I think that it's really interesting how that works, but I think being Middle Eastern, I'm first generation. So my parents immigrated here. And growing up in that culture and then growing up in American culture, it's very vastly different. Lots of self-identity issues happened growing up here. But a lot of the discrimination I faced, I also grew up around 9/11. So that time frame of Muslims and Middle Eastern Pakistani people and how they got affected. You'd think that even after a few, like it's been over 10, 20 years now since that happened, that it's so interesting interacting with other first generation Middle Eastern kids in America because they have absolutely no effect towards it anymore. So it's a really big gap within even our Arab American generational trauma. So
yeah, but I do see the struggle more with the racial part. Like for example, I would say in Colombia would be the other side, like the fact of being gay in Colombia. Well, now it's more open, of course, but it is still a thing. But when I came here, well, yeah, I feel like as you're saying through the camera, and as I do hear it very often, it's like, oh, you look white until you talk. That is just like, yes, because I'm happy to be a face. I'm happy to be a mixed person. And English is not my first language, and of course the culture is not. But also be aware that Colombians, we come in all, like in general, Latinos, we come in all shades of colors because we've been fucked by so many different colors. What happened? This is the result of your own colonialism. So a lot of people say, oh, but you get the white privilege because you look white. It's just like, yeah, but I would have to be completely quiet all the time to get that privilege. So it doesn't happen because most of the time I'm required to speak, to talk. So I do not get it very often. And it's common for me to answer every time, where are you from? I can hear the accent. It's just like, yeah, why? Why you need to know?
Yeah, I mean,
or to my wife, like, she's been here for a very long time, and English is the second language in the Philippines, so her English is on point. And when somebody asked her once, like, where are you from? She was like, oh, well, I grew up in the Philippines. Oh yes, I can hear an accent. And she's like, she has no accent. How can you, like, do you know that people in the Philippines, they speak English, like, because of the colony? So explain to me how those things interact. Or for example, I was so scared during COVID times whenever she would have to go out to work or anything, because friends of us, close friends, as being Filipinos, they did got racially profiled with the whole COVID situation.
yeah.
So in many different terms, we do feel the racial thing heavier, or well, at least I do a lot because I get mistaken all the time, and it's a situation where I have to explain why do I look like this and why do I sound like this?
Ugh, yeah, I hate that too. I get that a lot. I love. It's not even just you said language before. Language words are powerful, right? It follows by actions.
Right.
There's a way to address people of color and immigrants, and it's just like down to the language. It's just.
I know.
It's like I get the question of what are you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm like-
yes.
And I'm like, do I look like an animal to you? Do I have horns? Do I have a tail? Like I'm a person. So it's like
Right.
I always have to take this initiative. It comes down to like always having to over-explain and justify myself down to literally my race, not just being a woman and a woman of color.
But then, like, why do we have to do that?
Exactly.
Why do we ask those questions?
Pero
I
that's
don't
the thing.
understand.
I do feel like it's something very centered in here in the United States because I used to live in Mexico. Although we're Latinos, and of course my accent is completely different as Mexican accent, I never got to question about my background. Then I live in Spain, and I got questioned very much about my my Spanish, why it was so different. But I do feel like it's in certain cultures, it's I'm sorry, but in colonial backgrounds, you will always get asked why you are, why you speak, why you sound, why you look. Well, in other countries, it's just like,
a normal.
Yeah.
I will say that I had
Yeah, exactly.
a very similar experience in Mexico. I went to Mexico in April, and I didn't know what to expect. Mind you, my Spanish isn't bad, but I sound like an American speaking Spanish. It's like you can tell that I'm definitely not
Native.
yeah. But it was never a question of like, where are you from? Oh, you have an accent when you speak Spanish. Like I never had that occurrence at all. And I didn't feel like
but I think it's different because, for example, I know it happens in the Philippines, and I know because I'm learning Tagalog, and people get very excited when I speak Tagalog. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah,
you speak
it's more
Tagalog.
enthusiasm on our side.
On when I hear people from here, they've been learning Spanish, where there's just like I sometimes my brain is just like I can do English today, and I talk to people in Spanish, and hearing them talking back at me, just like, and they are like, I learned this, or I took 2 semesters in college, so I'm like, keep doing it, like it's very impressive. And if you go to Colombia and you speak Spanish, people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, you're doing great," you know. But in here, when you speak more than one language,
Or if you have the accent.
or if you have the accent, it's not a plus. It's not a plus here to actually make the effort to speak another language. No,
Yeah.
it's completely the opposite.
it's really interesting too. American culture, it was built on the melting pot, right? Like that whole ideology of like it's an immigrant collective. Like we have brought all these different people and we've made it this identity that it's supposed to be welcoming and it's supposed to be like all of these things. But then when you get down to it and you really think and then you travel and you get exposed to different people and different cultures, it's really interesting how anti-immigrant accepting it is here now.
Now, I would say now the US did have that gap, like where it was like embraced. It took a turn, but that's also the beauty of the coffee world, because in the coffee world we all speak different languages.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
It's always a plus. Your background is always a plus that you're making the effort to understand in another language. So it's such a welcoming experience.
Yeah.
It would never be, oh my God, your accent. No. It would always be like, it's great that that you speak English. It's great that you speak Spanish. It's great that you that you learn this other language, because what I always tell is like, I don't speak Tagalog fluently. Talk to the people in the Philippines, I would say a couple words, and of course I learn how to say the thank you in the language of the producer that I'm talking to, because that's the most I can do. But it is that kind of industry, I do feel.
Yeah, I agree.
It does have that colonial background, but let's also look at the other side. Let's look about the industry that is also very interested in building relationships, even despite how different and like we are in terms of religion, for example,
Culture,
racial, everything.
Yeah.
Topic next is all.
Because honestly, we were interested about coffee. We're talking about coffee, and if we talk about other agricultural products, the import export of bananas, flowers, rice. It definitely the earth does connect people.
Yeah, exactly. The coffee comes from the same soil.
Yeah, it's
in
something
different parts of the world. People cultivating those crops and bringing them to us. And I feel like, the more people are aware of that narrative, the more grateful we'll feel about everything that we are consuming from all the producers in the world.
I like the word that you used to describe Mother Nature.
What did I say?
I think it was Pachamama?
Oh, the Pachamama is Mother Earth. It's
Spanish.
Well, it's indigenous, but we have many different. Depends on the indigenous community. We have a word specific for our goddess. For our god. Our god is the land. But it happens to be in every community. It is a woman. It is the feminine energy. We do divide feminine energy, masculine energy, and it happens to be that in every indigenous community, it's the feminine energy.
Yeah, and Pachamama is kind of known as it's Mother Earth.
It's our mother.
Yeah.
I will say that I don't know much about the Philippines coffee origin, like in terms of what the culture is there like.
Back in what was it, 70s or 80s?
They were exporting.
We were one, I would say, top 4 within the top 4 biggest exporters.
Wow.
In the world.
That's a lot.
Until the plague happened, the red plague, it destroyed all the crops. Actually, Brazil got hit first, and that's why the Philippines was one of like the top one that still was exporting, but the plague got them eventually. And it was because the government was not very supportive at that time. It was so hard for the producers, farmers to recover, and they were forced to turn into a different crop. And so there was a big gap of the farmers still doing coffee, but it was mainly, they couldn't really produce a high quality coffee just because they didn't have the resources to do so. They're not being supported by any of like big companies and whatnot. And so recently, I guess I would say like for the past maybe 4 or 5 years, a lot more people went to the Philippines to help develop and cultivate the land and really educate some communities there to develop specialty coffee.
Yeah.
So now I think like Blue Bottle actually was able to get some specialty coffee
from the
Philippines and produce them.
The Philippines is, I would say, it's such a blessed soil. They have Liberica, they have Robusta, they have Arabica, so they have everything.
Yeah, we have Liberican coffee that you can't find anywhere else. Liberica is like a different variety. It's like much longer and bigger. That's just found in the Philippines.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I think you can find a small quantity of Liberica, I think, in Indonesia, but I mean, they're neighbors. They're right there.
We're pretty much the same.
But the ones who actually really been consuming it locally and nationally very proudly. Of course, the Philippines, they have a different relationship with their coffee. They're very proud of their cafe baraco, and also it's a bit different, when, for example, in Indonesia, there are like the house crops, like people have like their garden and they have the coffee there. Well, the Philippines, as South Americans as well, we were colonized, so they took that part of the colony. So there are big parcels of land. It's not like the little crop next to you. Mm-hmm. The land is divided in big parcels, so it's a little bit different from the other parts of Asia. But it is, it's been a lack of the interest in the government, in their rural area to work with the producers. It's been more like themselves,
right?
Which means very resilient. They've been doing an amazing work in the Philippines to bring the coffee industry.
And it takes also like a bunch of different people who takes in curiosity within the land to support the farmers themselves too.
But it also have like, that big background that the Philippines is right there in the center, where you have on the side Australia, and the other side you have Japan, and you have Korea, and you have countries that consumes a lot of coffee, and they're bringing now specialty coffee, and it's been a scene that it's been big for a while, but now it's like booming. Massive. Now it's massive. So that intersection, I also think that helped that happen in the Philippines.
Yeah, like I hope and slowly that the specialty coffee scene would grow there, because I do feel like it has so much potential, and it would help the economy of the farmers.
No, and hopefully when we have very positive, like hopefully when we have a future conversation, we are gonna be able to be part of the Filipino coffee scene, and we're very committed to what's happening in the Philippines, and the women, amazing women that are working right now in the Philippines, starting with Calzada coffee importers. You have La Casa de Cape. You have so many very amazing women just
very dedicated,
lifting the industry. And we'll be more than happy to be part of it, but we do feel a responsibility to be part of that growth,
to be involved. Yeah. Hopefully you get to try some Filipino coffee.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to have to figure that out, because I don't think I've ever had Philippine coffee. I've had Thailand, and that was really interesting. But I've never had coffee from the Philippines, so that would be great to experience. Do you both feel that in the coffee industry, specifically, I guess, for the production industry, even business, women are getting more included in the conversations, and the inclusivity is growing, or do you feel like it's still too low?
I would say nothing has been given to us. We're not being included. We're including ourselves. We're taking.
There you go.
Taking the spots.
Yeah, no, it's not like, they did the kindness of including. No, there are some very amazing, brave women that have actually pushed that space for the ones for us. Yeah, so, very grateful for all the women,
for the pioneers that started and making themselves be those strong women that we like all look up to now.
And that they're so important. I feel like in every industry, it should be there should be women in these big positions, as directors, as owners, as leading their own importing company, as owning their own cafe, whatever. Because I don't know if they're, whoever is listening, and own a coffee company or whatever, like they're the boss. they should know that there's people that get inspired by that. Like it actually it makes us feel a little bit more reassured that it is possible, because we've seen other women in the industry making it possible. So I'm very grateful for all that women, because as I say, nothing has been given.
Yeah.
It's been taken.
I think that's a perfect way to describe. Yeah, that's like a really good way to describe it.
I feel like we feel a lot more empowered to take that space.
Because we understand that we probably won't be given the opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We never felt like before that we deserve those spaces, but we do.
I think there's another.
It's that, and it's very common in South America, having that, ¿cómo se dirá eso? That part of the I'm gonna say in Spanish, that part of the remains of the patriarcado inside you, to sometimes not feel that it is your place. Like, that voice that's been very culturally like, women does this. And I'm just being like, you know what? I'm not going to do it like that, but I'm still a woman. So I feel like nowadays I'm listening to I was listening the other day to a conversation about this, and it's just like, women nowadays we're not talking biology, we're not talking any about this. Women about nowadays is making a conscious decision of being a woman and determine that, what kind of woman. Like, I'm the woman, but I'm not the woman that's gonna fit in the mold of what a woman is. But I'm a different kind of woman.
A non-conforming woman.
Exactly. Yeah, that I feel like it's so needed also in this industry. Like, being sometimes even like the one who put the uncomfortable topics on the table. That's I feel like that's the next step that slowly is happening. Like, why is this coffee getting graded under this thing? And I do feel like now we are empowered to be like, let's question this. Let's not wait for a guy to be like, there's something wrong with this method. No, like, now women can be like, let's have this conversation.
I think
sometimes we think culturally like we need men for certain change to happen.
I think that, to piggyback off of that, a lot of it has to be a nurturing space for women to feel comfortable with being confrontational and direct with their decisions. I feel like that's never enough pushed in a positive, nurturing way, that women should be able to feel comfortable being a part of a conversation and should feel empowered to say their piece and say, like, join the table of men and kind of help them get uncomfortable, basically. Confront them and have these kind of conversations that bring about like equal change from both sides.
Yeah, but I also feel like, yes, sometimes the table where men are seated, but also not forget, some women also have that patriarchy very instilled in themselves, and they're also part of the industry. So from time to time, to check ourselves as women in the industry and see what are we bringing, what are we putting on the table. Hopefully never abuse our power. And like, because you're a woman and you're in a power situation, or in a powerful place, also an invitation to check what are you bringing from the patriarchy in that position. That could be very harmful for the industry.
Do you guys have personal people from both sides that inspire you to continue, like a mentor-mentee relationship, or just somebody in your personal life that has really inspired you to continue doing what you guys are doing?
Yeah, we have a lot, actually.
Yeah.
We have like one really good friend. Well, actually, I work currently at her shop. Laura. We used to work at this company back in the days, and she finally probably got fed up too about working in the corporate. Oh, just kidding. No, she deserves like this shop, but she is more than capable, more than ever, even before then, to have her own thing. And she opened a shop, and
She's such an inspiration. Yeah.
yeah, and she's always just giving advice and just empowering us, both Jess and I. When we started doing our coffee, she immediately told us that, yeah, like when you guys are ready, we'll have your coffee in the shop. So having those people,
We feel supported.
yeah, we feel supported. It makes such a difference when there are people that support you,
Yeah.
willing to take you on and mentor you too, like guide you. So, and that inspires us a lot, and be in a way like for us, like what can we give back?
Yeah.
With like what we have.
Yeah. On my side, man, so many people, honestly, but I would say, well, you know, the typical like family, but it's not like thank you for my, but honestly, my mom, because such a rebellious woman, to go, you know, against the conventions of the country that, you know, that helped me push my way through it. And my dad, who actually recently passed, because he was always very encouraging of being myself. And the thing he always told me is like, stand for what you think is right, even if you're standing alone. But you have to do it for yourself. Because when you stand on the other side, you're gonna live a very heavy life if you don't go by your rules and by your truth. So that has helped me, especially in certain areas of like, you know, making tough decisions.
Yeah.
That's like, oh my God, what should I do? And I just have to remember that. And like in broader, like in bigger terms, I would say, an art historian, Colombian, Diana Uribe. She's just with just herself as a woman and a position of power in Colombia as a historian. She has very like inspired like my path, and shown that there are other realities besides, like, you know, the standard reality of being a Colombian woman. And Brigitte Batiste, a trans woman in Colombia, empowered dean of a university, and very aware of the environmental situation. And that's her fight. And she's such an inspired figure in my life.
Yeah. Jewel, do you have like a saying that you use whenever things get tough for you?
What do I say?
You're very grateful. She always say thank you. She's always grateful, no matter what situation. She's always grateful. And you know, I would say like it's also our daily practice, no? Like,
yeah. Every morning I always say I'm ready to receive blessings, growth, healing, with an open and grateful heart. And I know like there were some tough days, but I always say that everything will fall into place. Do not push it. If you have to push something, maybe you should just like kind of like take a step back and let it run its course.
Let it not be the ego. Yeah, sometimes the ego takes over.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an episode, I think, where it was Alexandra, I think, where she said, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. If it takes you having to like, if you don't feel enthusiastic about what you're doing, it's probably not aligned with you.
Yeah. And I think that's like one thing that this year we are a lot more mindful to like practice is staying true to ourselves.
Yeah.
Every decision we make, may it be personal or in business, is like, you know, is this something that we're proud of?
Right.
Years from now.
Yes. But yeah, sometimes it's hard, the no situation. And I think it's a woman thing, saying no instead of saying
Especially
yes.
for me, it's so hard for me to say no.
Yeah, I kind of like, I go with the, I don't give a fuck. I kind of say I don't give a fuck. Well, too late. I already said it.
You
But
are
it's kinda
welcome to cuss, because trust me, I have the worst mouth about cussing.
great. So sometimes it's like, I don't give a fuck. Saying no to this person, to this situation, is saying yes to me. And yeah, I do need to think about myself. Otherwise, there won't be company, there won't be marriage, there won't be anything
Right.
if I don't put myself in a healthy place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is ours, not the others.
Yeah.
but sometimes tough decisions, and saying no to producers, saying no to certain projects,
Yeah.
saying no to partners, saying no to people that just like, no, like I would love to see my company grow faster.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Better no.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when it doesn't sit right, when it doesn't feel right, I feel like you should take that as a sign for, at the moment, it's like never a no forever. Sometimes.
Well, nothing is forever. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if there's any last, I love to, like, I kind of want to do this as like a reoccurring thing. This idea of like a rapid fire controversial opinion to end this off. Do you guys have one where it's just like, I kind of wish this shit would just be well known, but this is probably going to get my ass under a little bit of heat?
You have it.
I do. Do you?
Jules, like, say it.
Yes. The scoring system for specialty coffee.
It's bullshit.
I do feel like it should be. It shouldn't be. It should be transformed. Grading an agricultural product, and yeah, I'm not very enthusiastic about it. I do not think it should define many things, and especially I really hope that whoever your grader is making these decisions, they know that they have the responsibility of an entire community. It's not that you're affecting, oh yes, Pepito, that person, whatever. No, they're affecting a family, a community, entire country. So I hope they take the job with such responsibility. But I do feel like an agricultural product, like the land per se, shouldn't be graded. We're talking about the soil. We're talking about,
Pachamama.
We're talking about the Pacha. We're talking about ancestral cultures taking care of it. We're talking about so many things. And sometimes I do feel like people who ask for these grades are just like, and what are you doing for the Pacha?
I know.
What are your sustainable practices?
We've stumbled upon some consumers that are so focused on the grades of coffee.
I've also run into this issue where it's just like, you don't really care about the coffee anymore then.
Right. And that hurt me as like a business owner, but like what more those producers and farmers who like takes care of these beans and produce these beans so we can all have coffee ourselves.
It's just like I don't know if like everyone it's that aware that they're not just planting seeds and goodbye, I'm just gonna do nothing. It's a mindful practice. It's they are very aware, they're very intentional with their crops. There's a whole vision behind their crops. This is a very serious matter. And for example, when it happens that it rains 7 months instead of 4, how is that the fault of the producer?
Right.
But as that consumer that is asking for a coffee of 97 points or something crazy, what are your sustainable practices?
Right.
Because I see you working brands that are not sustainable at all. And I know living a life where everything is coherent is very hard. Javier, sorry, or Javier has an opinion too about it, as you can see.
I think he's just agreeing with you.
Yeah, definitely. So I do know that it's very hard to to live a life where everything makes sense. But when people are already start making demands or setting rules, but not are aligned to what they're demanding, that's a different case. If at least they're trying, okay, they're trying. But if there's not even that intention, but just demanding because they're in a place of power, no,
then it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. And if you're not taking care of the pacha, if you're not involved even with the earth, how can you make these decisions?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully this doesn't come back and bite us.
Maybe it will, but hey,
this whole podcast is about getting comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. Yeah. It's not about us trying to hide behind our voices here. So it's like, I completely agree. Who are we to, as consumers, especially consumers where we don't have a producing state in this country that makes coffee, to go and demand how coffee is grown, how it's treated, and how it's sourced, and how the defects are all, like, we have absolutely no true understanding until we get there, and even then that's not our daily life. It's not a routine. So we shouldn't be the one
have the short end of the stick.
Exactly.
We're like so blessed because we just received this premium product.
Yeah. Premium product that we get to have that they don't get to try. They don't get to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't get to drink the fruit of their labor.
Yeah. And that's like one thing we kind of want to do when the time comes that like we can actually start visiting the origin that we work with, is bringing the coffees ourselves that we roast to them.
But we do try with Ruth Ann, what we did is send coffees.
Oh yeah, we do.
Hopefully producers get to try it and and get to see how we roast it. Not because that's the other thing. It's like, look what we did with your product. Look how look our great job. Is not. We always always looking forward for what they have to say.
Right.
Sometimes so we might fuck up. A lot of times, for example, with Aurora in La Sierra Nevada, is like, please make it taste like chocolate. This was in a cacao farm. In the Huacos are known for growing cacao, premium cacao, because it's our ancestral food.
Yeah.
So basically, the request was do not remove the cacao taste. Well, even if I like more oranges, well, yes, of course, it's their product.
Yeah,
well, it's like cacao.
Respecting the
dish.
I love that. I kind of wish that was a thing with who you worked with. Obviously, like that would steer a specific crowd to each producer, but I feel like the producers would have a lot more control over their product when it's like, don't manipulate it away from the origin.
Right, and that's exactly that's
a conversation.
That's a practice we apply towards roasting, is to kind of just follow and listen to the coffee.
I don't know their request of the producer.
Exactly. It's like we do have conversation. The Ethiopia from Ruth and actually from Dehab, that there's a strawberry farm next to the coffee farm. And obviously it tastes like strawberry. So
they're delicious. I've used her Dehab as well for a blend we had in the winter time, and I swear to God, that was it was one of my favorite Ethiopia naturals I've had.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like this conversation that sometimes people assume like the producer won't have the answer. And yes, it's okay if they don't have the answer. It doesn't hurt asking.
Right.
Like sometimes, like our coffees, when we're gonna name the bag of coffee, we text her. Like right now we're in conversations with Don Carmelo in Bolivia. Don Carmelo, what do you want the bag to to be named. You want to have your name. You want to be Carmelo and Familia. You want to be called like his farm is called Senda Salvaje. Do you want it to be Senda Salvaje? What's the name? And give me some time. I need to think about it. Okay, think about it. No pressure. Like whatever name, even if it doesn't, it's not related. I'll transmit that. Any because he have his coffee. It's delicious. Do you want any specific flavor? Like, how do you envision your coffee? Because you already cup your coffee. Like, what do you want us to do with your coffee? If you have an answer for that, great. If not, we'll roast it and we'll send you some.
I love
and you'll
that.
tell us your coffee.
It's a very integrated process. It's not just because I also feel like I get sad when producers like their image in their baby, basically it's a baby that they've created gets disappeared by a name that's not theirs. And I understand that kind of works for us to make blends and such, but it makes me sad when you kind of like lose. It goes back to losing the narrative, losing a lot of the relationship and a lot of the stories that come from coffee. And it's not just about the product. It's a lot about whose baby it was.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that this is where it comes into play. Like we use our voice, we use our platform we have to keep telling those stories over and over again.
I will always encourage people like go to our website. It's a 2-minute read. I swear you can read in 2 minutes. Just hear what this person have to say. They want to tell you something. Just give it a read.
Yeah.
Jewel, you never vocalized your rapid fire hot take.
Oh, we kind of should. Do I have one?
No. I'm telling you, she's all blessings and gratefulness.
You never get fed up by one thing. It doesn't even have to be related to the production industry.
Yes, there's one thing.
What was it?
When importers lie. When importers are like, yes, this coffee is traceable. We'll send you buy the coffee first, and then we'll send you the information. Yeah. We have a couple things. The thing is that it happens to us with an importer. Like the thing is that coffee is in Colombia. And they don't speak your language. That person didn't know that I was Colombian.
I was looking for. I don't know. I just really wanted to bring in a pink bourbon Colombian, and we happened to find one, delicious one, and it was on the pricier side. And I was willing to take that on. I was like, let's get this, but then we have to do our due diligence and do research about how traceable this coffee is. And the producer kind of just assumed, I was like, oh, like this is like from this name. I'm like, okay, like tell us more who this person, where it's from. I was like, oh, like like they only speak Spanish. I was like, great, my wife is Spanish. And or like, oh, they don't have much like internet there. I was like, it's a city. I was just like, it's Huila. Of course. Like, what are you talking about? Of course they do. So
being sketchy.
Yeah, I really don't like when they can't just be upfront with like what they have. I don't know. It just like it looks like a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
But another thing that's the other catch with the industry, that terms are so broad, like traceability.
Up to what points?
Traceability, because it's not a standard thing.
Yeah,
it's traceable like up to what, like to the country, because for us that's not traceable, but for some people that's enough. And since there are so many terms that are so broad in the industry, this kind of miscommunication situation happen very often.
Yeah, I guess my rapid fire was like some snobby coffee people.
Yeah.
Who are all for the points and all for the names. Yeah, I don't like that. It's just kind of diminishing all the efforts of both the producers and also like the roasters themselves in a way. I'm like, man, like we're not roasting this specifically for you. It's personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get butthurt for that, but it's okay.
What about you?
Yeah.
My hot take? I have
recently, the one that like triggered you.
It's really interesting, yours, Jules, because I've kind of been running into an issue with getting traceability about a coffee that, like, I've been being like, hey, I need more information, and it's just like not coming to me, and I'm just like, okay, this is really fucking annoying. But
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
also, sorry, just to add on to that, it does kind of help us filter out who we want to work with.
True.
So it's like ending a cycle of, at least for us, this is just like our practice anyway. We'd rather like work with like people who just like openly give us the information and directing us to the producers themselves. It makes it a lot easier for us. And yeah, knowing that we are building these relationships with them and being sustainable all together. It's like, as we grow, they grow as well. And as they grow, we grow as well. So
I don't know.
It's like a happy cycle.
I think if I had to think of one, and I'm like, ooh, I really genuinely hate how unapproachable the coffee production industry presents itself, down to how gatekept the production industry is to the events that SCA holds. It's extremely unrealistic financially for so many people, understanding that financially a lot of people who work in the coffee industry don't make that much money. And then let's make events extremely unreasonably high to attend and impossible to get to. And like, that's something I've found myself really fucking hating, is that I'm like, I want to meet more people. I want to build more connections with people, especially women. But man, is it so hard. It's so hard to like make connections because people don't tend to be very open. And then it's really hard to go to the events that's supposed to bring in community because there's a price tag even on the door.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you there. I was gonna say something.
I know what they were going to say. The pricing of the Q grading situation, the test.
Oh yeah, even like the Q grading test too is so expensive, and the fact that you need to renew it.
Yeah. I was thinking of getting Q graded, and I was kind of training with my mentor at the time, and then when he kind of was like, it's really not worth it, and then I looked at the prices and I was like, what the it's just like, it's like a flashy degree. I've seen people flash it around just like this little fancy paper. It's like, I'm a Q grader and I am better than everybody else because I can taste things more specifically with words.
Yes. I wish they would flag it with like, I have the responsibility.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I was like, yeah, I would definitely do the same thing, but in a different manner of like, I can help these producers bring their coffee in.
There you go.
I would feel like it would be so different if they would take the power position, with responsibility. Like being accurate is not just like, oh yes, I can taste all this amazing. No, it's just like you have a responsibility with the producers. You have responsibility with the countries. So
right. I feel like I sadly don't have many controversial takes since I'm still a baby and not exposed much to this industry. I feel like for somebody as opinionated as me, those will rack up once I do. But at the moment, I still feel like an infant in this industry. I probably will still feel.
And also, I guess this was like early on in my coffee journey is a lot of gatekeeping with everything, like roasting, production, like even sourcing coffees and stuff. But Jess and I are actually, I know this is just not us too, like there's also other people, but we are open to, like, we share our profiles the way we roast our coffee.
I respect people who do that because I also do that.
We share where we source our coffee. We like direct it to like the importers we work with.
Yeah, same.
Like, the more people that get those coffees, like the better. The better it is for everyone.
And whoever is listening, and it's also a small company.
Yeah.
Sometimes when there are small companies, there are challenges in the financial things. Like, we want this coffee and we want to help this producer. We want to establish a long-lasting relationship with them. But the ideal is to bring one pallet, and for a tiny company, it's just like one pallet. Like, oh my God, well, how? We're always willing to, receive samples and share pallets with other producers, with other roasters. It's like, I want a bag, I want to, or let's mix match this. This palette, we're always open to do that.
There are always options. I feel like we just need to know that it is possible. Because we're not aware of these options. We're not aware of this like availability of like resources.
Right.
Until like we have to do our own research. Yeah. But we're openly just like telling people this because like, man, like who's gonna help each other? Like just us two. Like,
no competing. That's such a colonialist thing. Like, competing for land, competing for the seats. Like again in Colón, again in the colonial times. No, like we're talking about the seats. How can we be This is so stupid.
I know, like we have, it's still a business. Like we need to make money, but not by competition. I feel like if like we have a healthy way, if everyone's get to roast really good coffee, and everyone gets to roast like a profile that's amazing and get to sell it to people, everyone's enjoying. It's like a win-win.
Yeah, we're not talking about the traditional recipe of the grandmother. We're talking about coffee. Everyone dreams coffee. That's why it's coffee.
Yeah.
No matter what, people are gonna continue drinking coffee, and it's not like the world is getting like less crowded. No. So let's not have this situation of let's compete about it's coffee. For Christ's sake, we're talking about a seed. We're talking about the earth.
I feel like we need to give respect to that.
Yeah, like,
and not taking it or not just treating it as like a thing.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Seed price. Let's not get started on that, but seed price it shouldn't be a thing. This is not a commodity. We're talking about a pacha, but
seed price the one that like decides how much the coffee would cost.
I know this is a situation with commodity products, but that's another one that.
Anyway.
She's just listing them all down. She's like, I got it.
I thought we didn't have any.
She's like, nope, I'm remembering them now.
I'm probably gonna have nightmares tonight. But
honestly, it's more like in the hippie way. Let's focus on our triggers, on our rituals, on our thoughts, and then let's share what it would benefit the industry.
I was going to say, I feel like what she's doing is actually helping bring awareness to things. And like it's this huge cloud anyway. It's a huge cloud of things that these are all these problems that are happening where it's a English is hard. Systemic issue. I was going to say, I have like 3 languages circling in my head at all times. So it's like a systemic issue here that unless it's brought to awareness with an idea of progressive change, not more oppression, not who's wrong and who's right. It's like, how do we tackle the problem together? How do we bring these things together? Nothing's going to go forward. The idea of like not keeping it kept, keep talking about it. The idea of sharing profiles is to better the experience that people get to experience with coffee. The idea of we should talk about the problem that's this. It's not to diminish anyone's reasoning as to why that is an issue. It's to bring an idea of, well, here's something that could be better for not just like us,
and we can all be. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't know. I was just gonna say it's not just the betterment of us as like the roaster, the businesswoman, and whatever the fuck my role is. It goes down to all levels, and that's who it should be. All decisions shouldn't just be for one facet of one thing. It should be all facets of who can it touch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel like we can all be good at these things, and we can all get better and grow together.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't feel like a competition.
Yeah, and it's a very hippie thing, but honestly, like meeting other people, traveling to origin, make you realize like it is not about this. Like I feel like there is a syndrome of living in countries in Europe or in the United States, and it's the syndrome of wanting to get more but not knowing what to do with it. There's this
greed,
neoliberalismo and capitalismo extremely absurd that sometimes just going to the roots, to the basic, it's a learning experience itself. Like, so let's not compete.
Right.
I feel like it's such a, there's so many good things that can be done in the industry.
Yeah.
Like also if anyone outside the US is listening to us, we're doing
a collaboration.
At the end of the year, we're gonna have a box with coffees from different companies, women owned, Mexico, Philippines, Hungary, Colombia, here the States. So if you own coffee business and you want to partner, of course there's money involved. Is that your question? Yes, you will get paid for the product, but it's more to get this box to different parts of the world, so people can get to know what is being done in origin and by other women's worldwide.
Love that.
How they roasted in origin, how the coffee tastes in origin. So it would be kind of like a travel around the world through coffee.
I love
with different roasters, different producers, women in coffee. So yes.
Yeah, that's the vision.
Yeah, we had some really great conversations today on such a variety and such a spectrum.
I know, it's like a full circle. Different colors, different palettes.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on here and like talking to me so openly and candidly about what you guys and your values and what you see going forward.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us. And if you're ever in New York visiting, like, let us know. We're happy to.
That's a dream. I've never been to New York, actually. Fun fact.
Yeah, come visit anytime. Not summer, because it does get really hot and stinky. So maybe like fall or spring would be your best bet.
Yeah, come visit.
Yeah.
Food from all over the world. Very good food.
Well, was there anything else you guys wanted to leave off on a good note while we're here?
We're bringing in Asian coffees finally.
Not
Philippines yet.
We're working on it.
But we're bringing some coffees from China, Sumatra.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, Papua New Guinea is
Oceania, but from the other side.
Yeah, from the other side that we didn't get to like have our hands on in the beginning. We're finally bringing a lot.
We're embracing
because we
other
also
side.
Exactly, we want people to not be skeptical and scared of trying Asian coffees.
Right.
So we want to like slowly bring that in, and so when they see China in the bag, they're not gonna be like, "Ooh, what is this gonna taste like?" So I know it's going to be a hard sell in the beginning, maybe. I don't know. But I hope like slowly that won't be an issue years from now.
Yeah. No, I think it's just like everything else in a lot of the coffee scene. It's just going to keep growing, especially with the way everything is going right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hopefully. Grow is good.
Right. And we're happy to collaborate with any people out there that
just reach out.
Yeah, we always work with a lot of especially women. Actually, people, there are girls from Mexico that reached out and wanted to collaborate. It's been really nice, just like having this platform
or questions,
very powerful.
Just for questions, like building a community where we feel safe asking stupid questions. Perfect. So if you have questions, ask. Right. We have nowadays email, Instagram, WhatsApp, iMessage. Just reach out.
Yeah, like ask, and you're not gonna get snubbed. and we'll provide you some answers that we can
Or
provide.
if we cannot, we'll
Direct you to
See.
people that can help you.
Mhm.
Because I feel like those are things that I didn't have or we didn't have in the beginning, is like having that just confidence to asking someone for help in a way,
Yeah.
for some ideas. But yeah, like we're open to doing all that. And I know you too, and a lot of others out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just want more of us, more women of color and queer people to be in the industry and kind of like making pioneering moves towards helping and growing a lot of the communities back in origin and helping growing a lot of educational things here too. So yeah, I really, really loved talking to you both. And I really appreciated you guys both being able to be on the show. And I will not hold any more of your time. I know it's been a little bit long today.
Oh no, it's totally our pleasure. Yeah, thank you for starting this podcast. No, I feel like it's like a great platform. Like as you said, you want to like start building this like community. I feel like it's just gonna grow from since when you started. So
thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
And
muchas gracias.
Thank you so much.
You guys have a great rest of your night.
You as well.
Tú también.
Great to meet you.
It was great meeting you both. Bye-bye.
Gusto.
Bye.
It's always like that awkward time when you're trying to get off of Zoom after saying bye and you're like, just get to the end. Don't be that awkward person where you're smiling awkwardly. Woo! What a good episode. Ugh. It's like another opportunity where I get to meet really awesome women who do awesome things. And it was just... I feel like it was like two people who came from totally different backgrounds, literally from their racial backgrounds to their career backgrounds. And they're like, why not? And then they decided to. And then now, like their business, their marriage, everything, it's so intertwined with their lives. They just seem like really good folk. Like I would just be like, this is a good, positive group of people. I really find it interesting how all of us, at the end of the day, keep vocalizing these issues, right? Like it's every person who's come on the episodes of the show have vocalized certain values that are just systemic, reoccurring problems that just... it is what it is, and it's frustrating. And I know the viewers couldn't see Jessica's face, but there was many times where there's this apparent frustration with just certain things that happen in the industry. I also learned a lot about Filipino coffee. I don't know anything about the Philippines. I also would love to work with a lot of the importers they use, because obviously they're doing a lot of that paving of the path of women owned or women produced or both. That's the entire sourcing I want to start doing as well. So just, yeah.
We can pause for that.
Yes, please, can we?
We can pause. We'll pause for a brief pee break.
Oh! We are back, and I am relieved. Because
Literally and figuratively.
Exactly.
I guess you could get that direction, yeah. I love that they send some of what they roasted back to Origin.
All of it. It seems like it's just such an integrated process.
And it's such a simple thing to do.
Yeah, it's like a thank you note.
Bingo. Ooh, I like that.
It's like
It's a
here-
thank
yeah.
you. Thank you for doing the hard work. And this is what we did with it.
This is the fruits of your labor that you don't get to try.
You don't get to try.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's such a simple thing to do if you think about it. Maybe logistically, it's hard to do to get it. Since they said the tracing's hard, maybe they can't. But when they know how to get it back, they do it. Isn't it great?
I like how much they emphasize like ethical sourcing. They really do.
And how hard it is to do.
Yeah, because a lot of people would rather. And I'm only talking. I'm only talking from like the importing standpoint. I don't think producers really do this because that would require too much power that they already don't get.
They don't get it, right?
But yeah, the way that importers have this power of kind of manipulating the situation to receive profit over value, and obviously this doesn't apply to all importers. But have I had an experience where it was just like, we need money first and then we'll give you what you want? Yeah. But no, everything Jessica was talking about, like, I absolutely love the term Pachamama. Pachamama? That was what it was.
Yeah.
My ignorant ass. But I just loved that so much. How much she, like, you could tell throughout the course of the episode how much it means to her. Everything that she's doing. She wanted she wanted to do something where it marked for her something that mattered, that kind of like the work that she's doing is contributing to something. And you can tell that it goes down deep for her. She's like, I'm respecting not just the people, I'm not just respecting what I'm doing, I'm respecting Mother Earth. And that's like where it all comes down to. And like her spirituality being such a huge part of it. Like everything she does, it seems like it's fully ingrained into her that this is something that I'm going to honor and respect. Yeah. And I love and respect her for that. Yeah. It makes me genuinely want to support her even more so. Like the sheer passion she has towards what she's doing. Yeah. It's infectious. It's like that's contagious. Like that's the kind of energy that I also want to be able to do.
All right. And as she calls it, I know it's kind of hippie. Like, yeah, you know, I think that's it's just respectful. It's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I you know, this may have been the most in-depth conversation you had about the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, because even she started the initiation of that.
And you've had that conversation with everyone you've talked to in regards to the topic of the uncomfortable conversation. But I think this one really was enlightening at that. Well, who's it uncomfortable for?
I loved that point. Why is it that we're the only ones uncomfortable by this conversation? Like, why is it that we're meant to be the ones uncomfortable? Because in reality, it really is men get this, like, this free-for-all of open mouth, almost, where it's just, like, anything that comes out is kind of just, like, whatever, it's free-for-all. But, like, women just constantly have this. She brought up a lot of colonialism and colonization too, which has a huge part into a lot of the mindset that we are. Sure. Yeah, and how she's seen the pattern and she's given it a name, and she knows, okay, going to that country or working with them, that's what their attitude they're going to have, which is good. Pre-warned, forewarned, you know what you're working with. Yeah. Really. I'm very impressed with those two. Very, very impressed. Not that I haven't been impressed with everyone you've talked to, but wow, they're taking it by the nuts and just go, we're going to do it this way. Jewel also pointed out how, like, a lot of the path that women, they haven't really had the opportunity to, it's like they've made that path. And, you know, not to be this person, but as soon as they said that, I just really thought about what this podcast represents. It's like, as much as, like, because obviously the question was, do you feel like there's a rise in women inclusivity? And it's like, do you feel like it's being offered to women more of an opportunity to be at the table? And they both were like, well, there was never a part where we were invited. It's like, we took it. And I think in general, when I'm talking about having these conversations and being uncomfortable and being confrontational and direct about these issues within the industry, from a systemic part to the producing, like, product part, like, this is what this is all about. It's like, obviously, I didn't get a chance to really get asked to be a part of this table, but I'm definitely taking it.
Right.
And
it's funny, once I got the feeling that when they answered that question, that once they're there, nobody's kicking them out. I mean, if you know what I mean, it's like we're there, we're here. Okay, let's keep pushing.
Yeah.
That they're respecting the progress that's been made, and once they're there, they're just holding on to it.
Yeah, I liked
or whoever is there at the table is like, mine. It's mine.
Jessica also like mentioned to not abuse your power. And
Right.
Bailey, when she was the first person that came on, also was just like how she's had women who are like, well, I'm a woman and this is how I'm like, understand how the patriarchy lives in us is what Jessica was saying. As a woman, we have a responsibility towards us and not to abuse our power. I loved how she said that.
Yeah.
And
that's, in part, that's being human too. We all have ego, and we have to keep it in check and be respectful and understand what was given to you, what you fought for, what was paved before you. You need to understand that can be taken away very quickly if you don't respect how it was gotten, how it was.
Right, I think.
And I keep saying given to, and she's right. It was never given.
Yeah, I think another thing is to also. Damn it, I literally lost the thought. Fuck, that sucks. I had a really good one.
It will come back. But wow, talk about their sourcing out all these. They're talking about countries I had no idea even produce coffee. I didn't know China did, but it shouldn't surprise me. But that's kind of cool.
Yeah, what's sad about the perception of Asia in terms of that culture is that everyone just assumes it's a tea-ridden country, and that's like.
And that's true. Good point. I never thought of it that way, but I just never know China was a coffee-producing country.
I've had some really good China coffee.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'd love to try. I mean, that's real interesting. Just to.
There's these countries that are under the scope of production where. Like Yemen is part of it. It's very underdeveloped, but it's present. There's good coffee available literally in all of these underdeveloped
I can believe
countries.
that.
And
I can believe that.
The government doesn't give a fuck, which is stupid. Like how Jessica was saying about the Philippines not supporting, and then it's just politics really get in the way of supporting the countries that are trying to uplift it.
And I'm hoping and assuming it's not just coffee that's singled out.
Probably not.
I hope not. But even if it is or it's not, it's still grouped and it's a problem. So you wouldn't think it would be singled out. But I was amazed that they're solving problems in their own little way. Little by little, sending what they made back. I think it's just so respectful for everything. It's just amazing. And then, really pushing that origin. It's like, no, she speaks Spanish. We're cool. Let's keep going further. Don't bullshit a bullshitter here. It almost smells like, quit screwing around.
This is one of these moments where it's like
amazing.
I don't know if I'm the only person who suffers from this, but damn, do I wish I knew Spanish. It's one of those moments where it's like, I wish I could just go up to the producer and just have a fucking conversation about the coffee, about their life and their story, but I don't fucking speak Spanish. Like, there was a coffee we have that we're sourcing that is a woman-owned, women-produced, and the importer has been really great about traceability and everything. And I told him, I was like, I would love to sit and talk to her and, like, get to know her as a person, because it's like I'm trying to build relationships here. And he's like, well, I can sit in and translate, because sadly she doesn't speak English. And I'm like, fuck. I was like, I don't want this barrier. Like, I hate the fact that I can't speak Spanish.
All right. But if you do have an importer that's willing to do that for you, it is a situation that's good, considering all the stories you have and I have heard now of importers as being kind of total dicks. So not giving access to the producers. But no, I think they're doing some really, really good stuff. How long have they had their coffee shop in play? Do you know?
I should have, like I said, with all the research that I couldn't find. Of course, I don't go through the basic information.
It sounds like they've been doing it for a bit. So, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
New York's coffee scene's something else. I'll tell you what.
Must be.
Like, I'm just like, the more I'm speaking, a lot of the people that we've had on the show have been from the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And it's just like.
Yeah, there's not been a.
Bailey's from the West.
Well, and that's about it. Yeah. They need to even it out, kind of see what else is going on over there. Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
I think in general, we got to figure out a bunch. And that's kind of sad that like a lot of the people that I've been interacting with are in predominantly the most populated areas. Like it's people that are under the ground that people don't know much about. But here's the thing. It'll eventually come when it needs to come. Everything happens for a reason. Everything will fall into place.
Maybe more opportunity for that to happen in larger cities too than, let's say, a Columbus site or something like that.
Yeah.
You know that. I mean, you're here. You know exactly what's going on in Central Ohio. And
you know what's funny is
more opportunity.
At one point I was working with Ruth on that winter blend, and I was like asking her for information on other roasters here in Ohio that are women. Because, of course, I would love to meet people who are more local. Like, that would be just easier. Plus, it's like, eventually, I would love to become more in person versus just the Zoom call.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how she came back with only one other person.
Really? Yeah.
And I was like, wow, really goes to show how diverse this state is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But some have... If not now, when? Somebody's got to do something here.
Right. Well, we love us our Starbucks. Jeez.
Yeah, we're still on that second wave kind of dark roast bullshit.
Yeesh. Jeez. Oh, wow. Wow, that's great interview. Hopefully they'll
Honestly,
want to be back.
yeah,
It was really,
it was so...
really, everyone brings a different perspective in how they are handling what they have to handle. Let's put it that way. Because everybody's walking in their own unique situation, and you know, just even to the point of them, and we're kind of, you know, rehashing what the interview was, but just that looking at them from color first, then hearing them talk, and just all these different layers of horse shit. Oh my god! Oh my god!
As soon as she started talking about it, I'm like, you don't even need to explain it, girl. No. I've been in the same fucking position. That is so fucking frustrating. I have such a problem with the way Americans look at immigrants and the way that Americans look at people of color in general, but like the way that people they don't give a fuck about how to address things, man. Yeah. What are you? You don't
What
look.
are you?
I fucking hate that question more than absolutely anything. And I get smart as fuck about it. I'm like, you're gonna ask me what I am? Do I look like a fucking animal to you? Absolutely not.
Exactly. Wow.
But no, like the way that she was talking about how everybody has this expectation of who she's supposed to be, and then she opens her mouth, and then she's this spectacle of fucking exotic nature. Like, what the fuck it goes back to what I said. America was built on immigrants. We're supposed to be normal here. And then all of a sudden shit flipped upside the fuck down at some point in history. And they're like, we've been here for so long, and nothing's fucking changed with this idea of this exotic creature that is anything that is not Caucasian and white and of European or Eurocentric value. And I'm like, you got to realize this country wasn't even built on white people.
Right. I mean, really, if you dig into the history, and we're kind of going off topic a little bit, but it's like America was never colorblind or race blind or where are you from? I mean, come on, the early days when the Irish came over because the potato plague and stuff. My God, when they came off the boat in New York, it was horrendous for them. And that's just one example. I mean, we've never really been a come on over. We are the melting pot. Well, that's kind of a branding thing, a PR thing that we put together. That it's like we are more welcoming than most countries. I'll give us that. In regards to coming over. Seriously, you know.
I mean, like, even Jessica was like, we couldn't be the way that we are in Colombia or in the Philippines.
Right.
So it's like, obviously there's a certain level of openness that is naturally
but
accepted
not
here.
I don't think the terminology melting pot really should be used anymore. I guess looking at it, we are. But that
visually,
only. but it doesn't. It has the connotation of like, come on over. We want you to come on.
There's this
we
welcoming
loved
spirit
it.
that everybody's welcome here. But in reality, once you step foot and live here, you're like, woo.
Not really. Exactly. That you can be here, but you have a place. You have a place to be in our caste society.
Yeah. We have now turned from coffee to politics.
We have. But again, to their point, though, I mean, it's not like we picked this subject out of midair. But no, I totally get where they're coming from, and maybe I was probably a dick when I was younger, but same time when it comes with age, you kind of go, who gives a shit, you know? make some great coffee. That's cool. I'd love to have it, and again, the grading thing, I don't get. I personally have never, at least I don't think I have, had a well-graded cup of coffee. I don't know what the difference is. I mean, I can't imagine that I'm going to, if I ever have one, and I'm not venturing to want to, that it's going to be the pivotal point in my life going, my life has changed, that I've had a high-rated coffee. I can't imagine. Coffee's coffee to me. I love the taste of coffee. I'm sure there is a difference. I'm sure there probably is, but it's like, I don't think it'll make a difference in my life if I ever have one.
It's kind of like the analogy of when you have like processed pasta and then homemade pasta. Like the quality difference is there.
Okay.
And it's obviously like it can be snobbish for some people who start to adapt to like, I'm only eating handmade, hand-rolled pasta.
Sure.
But in reality, like altogether coffee, the commodity it's a product of.
Yeah. There's much more to it than, I think it's a close analogy, but there's a whole lot more.
Yeah, there's just like so many layers, but I'm like in reality, like when they asked me for my hot take, I should have brought up Coffee Bros. God damn it. Like the pretentiousness that is like, I'm not gonna I mean, it's been brought up in other episodes, right? Like this is just like, it's reiterating a lot of the same problems that a lot of people who genuinely give a fuck about the coffee and the people versus just like this idea that the coffee is a pretty accessory to a personality trait. And I'm like, fuck you.
Oh, yeah. And how coffee got there. Oh my gosh. Talk about a PR job from the coffee industry to elevate it from the hot water crystal Nescafe. Maybe that's the pendulum swing. I don't know that it was. We got to get it out of this powdered, crystal instant coffee.
Instant coffee is a very interesting part of the coffee world.
I imagine it is. I'm not a very big fan of it, but
yeah, I feel like speaking of,
it's okay.
I would love to bring somebody who's part of the instant coffee.
Yeah,
world
that would be interesting.
And pick their brain because of all the things that I have absolutely no really good idea of. What coffee is being used, thrown into that pot of instant coffee? Because, here's the thing. American instant coffee, trash.
Is it? Okay.
Asian instant coffee, delicious.
Oh,
so
really?
it's really interesting. It's all very different in different parts of the world.
Oh, okay.
But, like, if you go to fucking Walmart and you get some shitty-ass instant coffee, best believe I'm not going to drink that shit.
I'm assuming that instant coffee was probably a World War II item, that it was rationed, and here was the best way we could do it, and it just kind of stuck.
But it's a huge part of like that. We go, but here's the thing. We've been scaling only on the specialty coffee spectrum. A lot of micro roasters, so smaller roasters, like ones that aren't chain driven. I think the only chain driven one we had was Bailey. She works for a macro roaster who's Cafe Vita.
Right.
She also does not work there any longer. But
oh wow. Okay.
She moved on to another place. But in general, there's specialty coffee and then there's commercial coffee. And commercial coffee is a whole other spectrum and a lot of different semantics. Yeah. But I also feel very ignorant in that space. And as somebody who is a sponge for knowledge, I would love to bring somebody who works in instant, more commercialized coffee and understand the differences between the coffee production industries that we're both in and how they work. Because obviously I don't know enough. But
right. That'd be interesting. You're right. Yeah. You now have more homework to do. Like you didn't have enough already.
Never-ending sourcing for people is always a good time for me.
Yeah. Good episode.